The lights went out again. In the first 6 months of 2011, we had 1 hour of electricity a day in our home in Arusha, Tanzania. And we were lucky. Only 7% of rural Tanzanians even have access to electricity. Tanzanians, the power cuts that year shaved, just a moment. It should go automatically now. Tanzanians lost nearly a half of a point of GDP in 2011 to the power cuts. 3/5 of Tanzania's power comes from hydropower, and 2 of the dams on the Great Ruaha River, the Kidatu and Mtera Dam, supply about 40% of that hydropower. But the Ruaha is a river under threat. In February 2013, I stood in the flooded rice paddies of the Songu Flats upstream of the Ruaha National Park, speaking on the cell phone to colleagues who were standing in the dry riverbed in the park, who spoke of baobab trees stripped of their bark by elephants in search of water. And the Ruaha has consistently run dry since 1993. And when the river runs dry, the lights go out. And the river runs dry because of upstream decisions about agriculture happening and livestock production happening. Potato farms and rice paddies are leaving the dams as stranded assets, rendering them useless by the upstream decisions. This story is unfolding across Africa, where infrastructure developments pay no heed to the natural capital that they depend on for their long-term viability. The African Union is planning massive investments in infrastructure relating to water, energy, and ICT. And the need for development is real and urgent. It must go forward. Africa's youth deserve jobs and security, farmers and entrepreneurs need capital, and rural communities need access to health care and to markets. You can't compete in the local market, let alone the global one, if the ferry boat taking your rice to market capsizes, leaving your rice at the bottom of the riverbed and your pocket empty when it comes time to pay the moneylender for the cash that you needed at the beginning of the season for your crops and your fertilizer. Growth corridors are being promoted as a way to crowd investment into landscapes across Africa. But can they deliver on the promise? Can investments in infrastructure, enterprise, and conservation come together to deliver inclusive green growth? And what are the key ingredients? These are the questions we set out to answer by looking at over 20 years of experience in delivering landscape approaches to conservation in Africa across the continent. Our analysis yielded 3 key ingredients: good governance, investment in nature, and enterprise solutions. And much as we would like, we cannot have it all. Good governance is about the negotiations that need to happen to take tough decisions about the trade-offs in a landscape. Good governance takes, landscape negotiations takes good governance, which require participation, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. Building good governance in a landscape takes time and effort. It is an investment. To empower those who are most impacted by development decisions so that they can take decisions for themselves about the trade-offs that are needed within a landscape and be empowered to share the vision and responsibility for ongoing management. Inclusivity takes extra effort. Let me take the case of sugar associations, which are powerful groups that negotiate for sugar to get to the mill for processing. Time is of the essence in this process. The longer the sugar cane sits on a truck, the lower the value of the sugar content in the cane and the lower the value at the market. Men dominate the associations, meaning that women-headed households have cane that produces lower sugar, which means that they get a lower price. Advocating for women to have a voice in the sugarcane associations is critical, but difficult. Making the case that with the men who are heading the sugarcane associations need to have their widows, if they were to die, have power in those associations, was one way that we enabled women to take time and take a role in the sugar. We gave them voice. I'm going to go back for a moment, if I can. I cannot take power. There. The next key ingredient in an inclusive green growth strategy is natural capital, the forests, grasslands, and rivers that provide the building blocks for life on Earth and for everything else, and then the biodiversity that provides for those building blocks to be strong. Investing in natural capital means putting resources into protection and management, which means that, and parks are a great place to start. They have existing status and structure, and the estate is expansive. They can be cornerstones for the rural economy through tourism and provide ecosystem services. Corridors between the protected areas are also important, particularly in the face of climate change, where the connectivity is needed to build resilience. In order to take pressure off of corridors, we need urgently to intensify production in a sustainable way that creates economic return and connectivity. It's good for business as well. At a recent World Bank hosted investor seminar, we listened to the plans to produce sugar in one of the corridors, last remaining corridors connecting the Selu Game Reserve, which is a World Heritage Site about the size of Switzerland, to the Udzungwa Mountains. This is part of the southern Tanzania elephant population historical migratory route. At the end of the investor seminar, we raised our hands from the back of the room and spoke of the connectivity of the site of this planned investment in the connectivity of the landscape, and told of the love that elephants have for sugarcane. And while the World Bank colleagues were not too happy with our intervention, in fact, the investors crowded around us afterwards to find out more about the landscape context for this siting. This brings me to the third important ingredient for inclusive green growth, which is business. Business needs to be a partner in the landscape and a partner in delivering on an economic model that restores and rejuvenates the natural systems and provides livelihoods for people. We work with business to ensure businesses who are like-minded and want to ensure that the ecosystem services that they depend on are sustained in perpetuity. Let me take the example of Kilnbearer Plantations Limited, another rice producer different from the one in the Zongo Flats, who's actually investing in upstream catchment management to ensure the water flows downstream. These flows are actually going into the Rufiji River, which is one of the rivers that's targeted for future hydropower investment by the Tanzanian strategies and the African Union strategies going forward. Africa is a continent of change. It's a continent of youth and of growth. It's a continent that is dynamic and vibrant. The development paths that Africa will take are unique and will be individual. Africa has leapfrogged into the future in many ways, skipping landlines for cell phones, moving from directly into mobile money, skipping over energy grids and into mini grids, which are popping up all over. If the groundswell of attention and commitment and partnership with Africa were to fully align around inclusive green growth, as many of these partners have, we have a unique opportunity to achieve a transformation to an economy that is underpinning life on Earth and restorative and regenerative. We would like to invite you to join us to help Africa transform to an economy that is sustainable at its foundations. Thank you.